Hey, you guys, welcome to Alex and Andy live on Sunday, May 29, 2022. Coming to you live from Shanghai, China. You can see there the shot of Lujiazui, Shanghai's financial district. Looks like the camera is a bit black there. It should be a bit brighter, but you can still really appreciate the lighting over there, which has just turned on at 7 p.m. Looks pretty beautiful. And yeah, we're going to give you the latest details here today, Sunday, 29 May. Sorry, we haven't had a show for a little while. We're back with an update. On today's show, we'll briefly discuss, obviously, the latest numbers. Today, we had 29 new symptomatic cases and 93 new asymptomatic cases with one new community infection. Really good news, there were no deaths yesterday. So 0 new COVID-related deaths reported yesterday as cases here in the city continue to plummet. Now, we've had news today that businesses are being allowed to open again as usual on June 9. That is next Wednesday. And apparently they're able to do so without getting a special license, which is awesome news. But many are still locked down here in Shanghai as the city gears up to open up, still unable to leave home. Many people who reported being given passes in the last few days have not been given them today. And also they say tomorrow, a lot of people aren't going outside either. So it could be just another push before Wednesday when we fully open up, hopefully. Today we'll also have a new episode in Mental in Lockdown, Emma Leaning's series. This might be her last one, but I'm not sure. This one is about parenting in lockdown. But without further ado, let's chat with my co-host, Alex. Alex, how's it been? Haven't seen you in a few days.
Yeah, it's been a while. Hope you've been all right. I know that you're in the office now, which I haven't been able. I'm still in a situation in my compound where we're only given 2 hours per day to go outside with a pass. I know that you have gone to the office and are actually staying there, staying the night there until hopefully June 1st we're able to traverse back and forth from the office to our homes. Hopefully that comes to fruition. But yeah, it's good to see you there. Your internet connection seems to be better. Your lighting is really good. You're looking good, and so that's cool. Yeah, just for me, it's just sort of counting down, hopefully, the last few days of this sort of compound confinement situation for the majority of us, and hopefully come June 1st or shortly thereafter, hopefully June 1st, but we'll see. We can actually make the trek back to our offices and back to other businesses, as you just mentioned. It seems like that it's very likely that several businesses, many businesses, if not most businesses in the city will be able to open up again on June the 1st without having to have a special permit that's been necessary over the last couple of months. So let's hope that comes to pass, and then we can take another step to get back to where we want to be.
Yeah, I'm really crossing my fingers for June 1. At the moment, I think we are heading for that. But of course, we've had quite an unpredictable 2 months. So I think anything can change between now and then. So I guess, as we've said all along on this show, we'll wait to see on June 1 what actually happens. But yeah, like you mentioned, I'm here in the office at Shanghai Daily. As you know, Alex, we've been offered the chance to come to the office during the whole lockdown under the proviso that we stay here, sleep here, and we can't go home. Of course, I didn't take that up before because I've got 2 cats at home. And also, like a lot of people in this lockdown, before the lockdown began, I didn't really have much to do with my neighbors. But now, as we were kind of heading towards the finish line, I was kind of feeling like I really want to get out there and do some stories, see what it's like out there before we fully open up, because it is such a unique situation. And so about 3 days ago, actually, I asked one of my new friends, my neighbors, if she can look after my cats or go and feed them every day. And she's more than happy to. So yeah, I'm here in the office, which is awesome stuff. Good to be out. I see it's still as messy as ever.
Yeah, I'm actually really looking forward to getting back to the office as well. I know, it's work, but at the same time, I do enjoy obviously my job. At the same time, I feel like I'm much more productive and much more, I feel like maybe I'm not the only person. I'm sure there are a lot of others who, maybe in the first or second week is, working from home, I can wear my pajamas and I can, be in my bed.
One week.
That kind of, I see a lot of people they're not fortunate enough to do that, and we really obviously have been talking about those people, and we feel for them. But I think there are a lot of people who do have the opportunity to work from home or did, but then after a certain amount of time, after a certain number of weeks, you kind of feel like, I really wish that I could get back to the office and I'd be more productive and really get back to life the way I know it. And I'm starting to feel the same way as well. I'm really looking forward to getting back in there. and just kind of just being a little bit more sort of streamlined, productive, having our colleagues around, and getting back to I feel like any sort of taste of normality for me is something that I welcome at this point.
Yeah, but you know what, Alex, I got to tell you, it's really weird. Because after I left about 3 days ago, so I was locked down in about 7 weeks. And when I got out of the compound, I had to show a pass and everything, and then they unlocked the gate and let me out. And I was just outside on my scooter, and I was like, this feels really like kind of unsafe. Like, it felt weird. Not anything to do with COVID. It wasn't like I'm going to catch COVID. I just felt like in the open world, it felt really, really weird. And then I was on my scooter, and I'm free now to just go anywhere. I can just bike around, whatever, because we're doing media, we're doing stories. And I was like, I should go down to the bund, like Alex and I were talking about, have a look, what's it like there before I head to work and stuff. And I was like, no. And I just biked straight to work, got in the office, and then felt like, oh, I'm kind of safe again. It's a really weird feeling. Do you know what I mean?
What do you think is the reason for that? Obviously, I haven't been out since this all began. Last time I was out was March 31st. What is the reason that you felt that way? What was sort of the impetus for that?
I don't know. It's just got to be something to do with just being locked up at home for so long, not going out. Everything happened at home in those, like with our compound, we have that blue fence all the way around. And it was just like, after nearly 2 months, it just felt the outside world was just something completely different. And I kind of, you've seen those movies like Shawshank Redemption. It's not the same, but when people get out of prison, they kind of don't know what to do. That's how I felt for about 1 or 2 days afterwards. So it's a really crazy feeling. And then actually, last night, I think I actually went back home to just see what it was like, or the day before, just to see what it was like outside and stuff. I kind of missed home, to be honest, and I kind of wanted to go in. And the funny thing is, now that I'll be outside for a week before we hopefully open up on June 1st, I'm going to be racing home to see my cats while everyone else is like, let's get out. So that's going to be interesting.
True. I think maybe, and this is just speculation here, but I think maybe once businesses and everything are open, I feel like walking down the street or biking down the street or whatever it may be, and seeing 80-90% of businesses closed and shuttered, and the number of people on the streets, very few, it might kind of give you a bit of an eerie feeling. So I'm looking forward to when we can actually interact on some level with our fellow Shanghai residents, and walk by businesses that are open with the lights on and people inside, rather than just blacked out windows and sort of that sort of, I don't want to be overly dramatic, sort of post-apocalyptic feel that Shanghai has had in recent weeks.
No, but that's what it feels like now still, Alex. Like outside, people have passes now more and more. They can go outside for, like 3 hours a day, 2 hours a day. Right. But there's still no businesses open that you can go to. So you could see a 7-Eleven on the street, and if you want to buy a bottle of water, you can't. It's open, but they're literally not allowed to let you in or hand you anything. So all that they're allowed to do is give something to the delivery guys. So literally, if you were outside walking and you wanted a bottle of water, you could go to a 7-Eleven, find it on the food delivery apps, put an address nearby, maybe just randomly choose an address, and then get the guy to come pick it up and give it to you. That's the only way you can get it. So it's still outside here. It's still very much locked down, very much a weird, post-apocalyptic place. So even people who are outside, I think, are really desperately looking forward to companies opening again on June 1. And we're going to speak to our colleague, Dingining, about that very soon. But first, I reckon we should chat with Yang Jian and find out the latest. Let me see if I can bring that up. There we go. Yang Jian, long time no see.
Hi, hello.
Hey, I noticed lots and lots of announcements lately, probably more announcements, I feel, than normal, as we seem to be inching towards the city opening again. Do you have any more details on a kind of roundup of what the latest official stance is?
There are many positive signs, like you said, from the authority recently, that the city will fully open up and return to the normality very soon. And despite there are some community cases reported both today and yesterday. And the first is the city's pandemic situation is improving rapidly, and maybe even faster than the expectation of the authority. And the daily infection number is expected to drop to maybe double digits within 2 or 3 days. And secondly is the extension of the PCR requirements for local public transport and public places. And it has been extended to 72 hours and from June the 1st. And the spokeswoman said that this measure is to balance the COVID prevention and economic development, as well as to fully restore the normal production and life orders. So the June 1st, the Wednesday will become an important day for the city's life and work resumption, and maybe more metro lines and other public transport will be restored. And thirdly, local senior grade high school students will return to schools from June the 6th. And if the kids need to go to school every day, private cars might be allowed on the road to deliver and pick them up. And meanwhile, many outlying districts keep conducting pressure tests for the full open up of downtown areas. And like Fengshan district has initially allowed all residents and vehicles to move around freely, and it has cancelled all the community passes, barricades, and other limitations. And the policy is expected to get promoted citywide. And in downtown areas, many landmark sites have reopened, such as the Yuyuan Garden Malls and the #1 department store on Nanjing Road East, which have great symbolic meaning because these two sites are maybe the most famous and the most popular places in the city that received tens of thousands of visitors every day before the pandemic. And furthermore, the executive vice mayor just announced the white list to authorize companies and businesses to resume production will be canceled from June 1st. It means all local companies are now encouraged to restore operation as soon as possible and with no limitation. And now the focus of the city government is being shifted from the COVID prevention to work resumption and economic revitalization. And I'd like to mention the last positive sign is from today, city officials attending the daily press conference are wearing normal surgical masks rather than the N95 mask. And it is the first time that the officials downgraded their personal protection at this daily press meeting that is broadcasted every day. And it can also be regarded as a message that the city will return to normal soon, Andy.
Yeah, it's good. Good to see some positive signs. I did want to ask you, a lot of people have been sort of reporting or saying that their Juweihui or their neighborhood management committees are not letting them go out as of right now, despite the city pushing forward with the opening up and the resumption of work and the opening of office buildings and things like that. So what's the official word on that or anything in that regard?
Yes, some local neighborhood committees, the Zhuweihui, have been criticized by media for setting up unauthorized threshold to prevent people from living or entering their communities in the name of COVID prevention and control. And the phrase 层层加码 has become a buzzword and hot topic among local citizens, which means every level of authority imposes their own additional stipulations and rules, especially the Zhuweihui, which serves as the grassroots arm of the authority and the gatekeepers over how the neighborhoods function. And as the pandemic situation becomes better, more people are returning or coming to Shanghai, and more employees are returning to work. But many of them found that they were not allowed to enter their own community after coming from other Chinese cities, while some employees were not allowed to leave their community to work unless they signed a promise that they won't come back before the end of the pandemic or the end of the lockdown. And some local lawyers have argued that these unauthorized rules are both irrational and illegal. And the city official clarified on the press conference that the only requirement for people coming or returning to Shanghai from other domestic cities is a negative PCR report made within 48 hours before their arrival. And he said local communities cannot prevent or refuse the eligible people from returning to their own neighborhoods. And only people from domestic high and medium risk areas must undergo a 2-week center or home quarantine with many PCR tests. And the official asked the district governments to well-explained policies to their sub-districts and the neighborhood committees to stop any unfair discrimination against returnees. And we know that the neighborhood committees have contributed a lot to the city's fight against the coronavirus in the last 3 months. And they are also the key to the achievements we've made today. But like the city officials said, no simplistic sweeping measures should be conducted. And for instance, letting more people out might bring about risks, but to keep everyone within their neighborhoods is certainly not the best solution. So as the official said, the districts and the sub-districts should offer more guidance and a policy explanation to their neighborhood committees, rather than just transfer the pressure and the work target to them, Alex.
Awesome, Yang Jian. Thank you so much for the update. We will see you again, not tomorrow, maybe the day after.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Well, lots of information there, as usual, from Yang Jian. One of the things he mentioned was the requirement for COVID testing, moving from 72 to 48 hours. The other way around. Yeah, so that is awesome news, because obviously having a COVID test every 2 days or every 1 day is a bit much, and I've been doing that recently. But yeah.
Right. I mean, 3 days is still it's still a task. It's still a mission. It's still something that we're going to definitely have to make sure that we remember to do. I know that, Andy, that you have been doing that at these sort of mobile or makeshift, or whatever term you'd like to use, PCR testing sort of kiosks that are now being set up around the city. I think I hope that, I know obviously there aren't a lot of people that are out yet. If on June the 1st, the majority of us are actually allowed to go out without passes and move freely about the city in terms of going to our offices, going wherever we need to go. Hopefully, the only thing I'm concerned about is that there might be long lines at these particular testing sites. And so hopefully that doesn't come to pass, you know what I mean? Because obviously if we need a COVID or a negative PCR test within 72 hours to enter any building or any facility, park or otherwise, I think, I hope that we don't end up having to stand in 2-hour lines. I hope that it's as efficient and quick as it is for you right now.
No, it is outside at the moment. Obviously, there's not many people out here, so it's pretty quick. But I don't know what's going to happen once the city opens again and we have millions of people every day. Obviously, even if you stagger it over 72 hours, there's going to be millions of people every day wanting to get tested. So we'll have to wait and see. But I got good news for you, Alex, about our workplace. We actually have one of those kiosks downstairs out the back of our building, which is only for people in this building. So at least for some office buildings, they have their own kiosk, which is good news. I'll just quickly check some comments. Somebody asked in the Shanghai Ribao WeChat group, is the man on the left in the office? Yes, I'm back in the office. I was able to leave home and return to work with a return to work pass. And then my Juweihui, my community, let me out. But I'm not allowed to go back home now. So I'm living here in the office. That has to be stressed. So other people were talking about the fact that if somebody tests positive for COVID now, they're only heading to hospitals to recover, which is true. Obviously, the fangtang, or the temporary accommodation to temporary quarantine sites we saw at the peak around mid-April, they were being used because obviously all the hospitals were full. So now, if you are unfortunate enough to catch COVID nowadays, you will probably end up in a hospital rather than a fangtang, although that's not for certain. It depends where you are, of course. But yeah, lots of comments coming through. Thank you, guys. Oh, Alex, I wanted to ask you what you think about the Juweihui thing, because what Yang Jian just said kind of fits what we've been saying the whole time, that, we've been wondering if maybe the Juweihui have been kind of going above and beyond with their own rules that are maybe a bit arbitrary.
Yeah. So as we know, I mean, obviously, a lot of people, a lot of people, particularly people like in Juweihuis, they're trying their best to sort of get their job done, but at the same time, they might be adding arbitrary sort of extra obstacles. What did he say? 层层加码, which basically means adding layers and layers of extra restrictions in a relatively arbitrary fashion. And we have definitely seen that throughout this entire episode. And so, and so that's the reason why, Andy and I have always stressed, yes, we can report what the official policy is, but, maybe what your particular Juweihui or neighborhood committee is doing might not comport with those policies. And the reason why is because they've been adding extra restrictions. And I think, it stands to reason to say that they are afraid of, if there's an outbreak in their neighborhood, that they might have to bear the responsibility for that. And so, out of an excess of precaution, they're sort of adding extra restrictions, and so that's sort of led to the situation that we've seen. And so hopefully we'll see how that goes in the future. Obviously, if you have had recent positive cases in your neighborhood, then you'll still be designated as either a red or orange area, and so the situation might be different. But that's actually those neighborhoods are actually quite few in comparison to the actual size of the city at present. And so hopefully when offices and businesses do open up, when the majority of us are designated to go back to work, hopefully we'll be able to do that. We'll have to see in the next couple of days how it actually is rolled out. But I think there is some cause to be optimistic in terms of our ability to get out and go back to work here in the next few days.
Yeah, I'm crossing my fingers. Hey, we just had an important comment actually on the WeChat group. Jesse said, Andy, that's horrible. You should be able to go back home. Didn't they say nobody can be barred from going home? That is true. But basically what happened was when I applied to return to work and leave from my juwei, the only way they would sign the note letting me leave is if I agreed to not come back. So I had to agree and forfeit my chance to go back. Otherwise, it would be just too annoying.
Right.
You can't be going in and out every single day to work. That is the situation. But my juwei did tell me if 3 days later or whatever it is, I decide I want to go back, I can. But she's not going to be signing another release to let me go back to work again. So yeah, I forfeited that myself.
Well, I mean, two things to say about that. Obviously, to the commenters' comment, it's people that were released from quarantine facilities, Fangcang Yiyuan, these makeshift hospitals or other quarantine sites, as negative, who were previously positive or were previously close contacts, are not allowed to be refused to return to their homes once they've tested negative twice in a 48-hour period. Basically, what that means is people who were positive were taken away. And then later tested negative. Some communities were trying to keep those people from coming back to their houses, despite the fact that they had been tested negative, and that was determined to be illegal and not allowed. And that makes perfect sense. I mean, that doesn't comport with science or anything else, and it's just hysteria, in my opinion, to try and not let somebody who's been tested negative to come back to their community because they tested positive at some point in the past, right? But currently, what it is as of today, as of right now, and this is the reason why people like delivery drivers are not allowed to return home at the end of their shift. People who are out without a special pass, and not just a regular pass, but like a super special pass, right, are not allowed to go home. You're not allowed to go in and out of your community each day. And so that's still the case. Now, obviously, Andy, you're at the office, and you return home as of right now. And if you did, you'd be stuck there. But at the same time, if on June 1st, we'll see how it goes. We'll be waiting to see if that actually happens. But if on June 1st, that policy is rescinded to where people no longer need a pass to come and go from their communities or their compounds, then Andy, you or I or anybody would be allowed to travel freely from home to work or outside or wherever else, right?
That's the whole idea.
Right. That's exactly right. And so that would mean that you could return home and then go to work the next day and return home. And I could go outside and go to the office and meet with you there and not have to have a special pass or sign any sort of waiver or anything like that to return back to my apartment at the end of the night.
Exactly. So it is, I have to keep stressing to people, the city is still very much locked down. So what I want to do is show you guys a video because actually to travel around as well, where would a video be that I got from AirDrop? Oh, there we go.
I heard the AirDrop noise.
I can't play it. It's not going to let me play it. No. Anyway, so basically, there's still checks. There's still checks all around the place. So like yesterday, we drove to Pudong to interview somebody, and probably before we got to the place we were going to, we were not stopped. We went through maybe 5 or 6 checkpoints, and you have to have the special media pass to show them before you can move on. So the city is still very much, sealed off in different areas, and that is the same for Arashao. Obviously, I can't go back inside and keep going in and out. Otherwise, all of those delivery guys that are outside sleeping at rough would also be able to go home. You know what I mean? So I forfeited that myself, and hopefully, like Alex said, I'm crossing my fingers that I'll be able to go home on June 1 while everyone else comes out.
Yes, definitely.
going to do now is, oh no, I was going to play the video. You mentioned before I did the COVID test, but first, actually, we should speak to our colleague Ding Yining, who's going to talk to us about those businesses opening, which I think is really important, because I think it's a good sign as to what will happen with the whole state of the whole city, I guess. Ding Yining, how's it going?
Hello, Andy. Hello, Alex. How are you doing?
Hi. Good. Before, I was under kind of the understanding that companies, even from June 1st, may have to, apply for special passes or whatever to open up. But now I saw today that maybe they can do so without those kind of special passes. So what is the situation and what does it mean?
Before, the city has issued several hundreds and maybe over 1,000 permits, but they are mainly for factory sites, manufacturing sites, and those warehouses where they process these kind of online deliveries. So the next step, I think, it's for office buildings, for those places to open for business, but that could take quite some days. But even if without the permit, because you have to allow your employees to go to the offices, and obviously not all these offices and facilities, they have the space to provide accommodations, because as far as we know, it's still not possible to return to the compounds, to your community once you leave. So that's the issue right here. Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess my question for you is, do we think that basically all stores and malls, rather this recent information or press release, does it mean that all stores and malls will be able to open up as usual from Wednesday, June the 1st, or do you anticipate a little bit of a slower, more gradual opening up of establishments like that?
I think in the short term, there will be an increased number of stores available to open, to either to take your food takeaway orders, but in the long term, I think it's still a slow process, because again, it's a problem. Like you have to allow your employees to go to the stores and do all the daily the process, or the daily routines, whether you work at a canteen or whether you work just desk jobs, because I don't want everybody to keep up their hopes for too high. So that's basically the work permit, because the work permit thing, actually it used to comes in two parts, because you have to first have the factory permit, right? And then you have to work on a name list, the people that are authorized to go to work at the factories and go to the workplaces. So now that these restrictions will be gradually scrapped, so and maybe we will have to wait and see, how many people will be able to travel freely to their workplaces, and travel freely and back to their neighborhoods. Yeah.
Oh, so it sounds a bit more of a pessimistic outlook there from you, Ding Yining. Thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
We'll catch up with you later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Bye-bye. Oh, that's because in our WeChat group, someone was saying, I can't imagine the whole city opening up again on June 1. Well, having just spoken with Ding Yining, it kind of feels like maybe it's going to be slower than I was hoping.
Right, and I again, as we've talked about countless times on our show, I've kind of maintained that sort of, I don't want to say believe it when I see it, but that's kind of the crux of what I mean. You know what I mean? Obviously, there have been a lot of different plans that have been scrapped for different reasons, either because, the virus was less containable than we initially thought, or whatever the case may have been. But, again, I think it's extremely optimistic to expect that on June the 1st, we can all get out and move around freely. Obviously, still we only 4 of the city's 20 subway lines and over 200 of the city's bus lines, but again, there are well over 1,000 of those are in operation right now. And I know that the 2 subway lines that I normally use to get to the office are not operating right now. And so I think that's true. That's the case for a lot of people, of course. And so I think, we should sort of temper our optimism a little bit. I think there are positive signs that we're moving into a better place than we've been for the last 2 months. But I don't know how fast, how gradual that's going to be, and sort of how many hoops are we going to have to jump through. It still remains to be seen, and I think we'll have a bit of a better idea about what that's actually going to look like in the coming few days.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the graph, and of course, like you said, the situation is looking a lot better than it has been. If you look back to mid-April, we had well over 25,000 cases a day, so we've come right down. But, as people have been saying, we know not to get our hopes up too soon, and things can change very fast. So I guess what we can do is wait for the next few days, see how things pan out. We still have 2 more full days until the 1st of June. So let's wait and see what happens with the press conferences, what the government announces. But like Yang Jie mentioned before, there are little signs you can look at, like seeing that the officials have changed from N95 masks to normal surgical masks. You may not read that much into Western media, but in China, you can definitely read into that, and it is a good sign.
Sorry, there just had a bug fly in my face. But yeah, I agree with you. Now it's all over my hand. Sorry, everyone. Yuck.
Squash it.
But anyway, yeah, I did get it. But anyway, yeah, I agree with you. So we'll again, I can repeat it 100 times until I'm blue in the face. But we're just gonna have to see how it goes until obviously there have been a lot of positive statements made about what's going to happen on June the 1st. As Andy and I mentioned before, we have received notification that we're going to be able to return to the office on June the 1st. But it's May the 29th, and I'm still not allowed to go outside my compound for more than 2 hours at a time. And Andy obviously had to sign a waiver saying he wouldn't return to his house and has to sleep in the office. And so it's obviously not an ideal situation. And it doesn't really comport with actually being able to go back to work, right? I'm sure most of us don't want to be sleeping on a cot in the office. And so, we'll see if that changes come June the 1st and to what degree it does. But again, we'll just have to, obviously stay tuned to our show and stay tuned just obviously to the news in general and to what's happening around you and your compound with your neighbors and with everyone else. So.
Yeah, and I'll use that opportunity to plug our website. The Shanghai Daily official website is in the English language, and it's updated all the time. And you can go there by visiting shine.cn. And it's what we use here to show you the graphs and stuff when we do every show. So it's really useful information. There's a comment from Travel with Jean in China Andy, we can hear an excitement and new tone in your voice. That's good. Can you talk about your change in mood and mental state since returning to work? Yeah, basically when I first came out, it was really weird, like I was saying before, really weird to be outside. And part of me was like, oh, I kind of want to go back home. But I got used to that, got over that in a day or two. Now I'm pretty much free to move around as I like for my work. So I could go downstairs right now and get on my electric scooter and bike to another part of town easily enough. But to tell you the truth, I'm still wanting it to return, obviously like everyone else, to return to normal. And for me to be able to go home. So I'm really hoping that, I'm not going to get my hopes up too much, but it would be awesome if by June 1, if everyone's allowed to go to work, that means they have to let people back into home. But also another thing, I don't want it to be like when I go home, I've got to go through a gate and scan something and show my ID or whatever. I want them to remove all the fences. And to be honest, I can't imagine that happening so quickly. I don't know about you, Alex.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there in my particular compound that we obviously live in a larger compound. There's obviously a big gate, and so we don't have any extra barricades or anything like that. Now there are some of those sort of covered, I don't want kiosk tents where the people, where the dabai and the volunteers and everyone else sort of stands. We have been allowed to go out just to grab our packages, quite my other things that are arranged for us. And so they haven't been super strict. Whereas a month ago they would have shouted at us for doing that, but now they just kind of let us go out and look for our own stuff. But so I haven't seen any sort of extra barricades or anything like that. But again, we'll have to see. As of right now, we still have to use the passes for one person per household 2 hours per day to get out of the community, and that's obviously not conducive to going to work or the office or really anywhere other than maybe a supermarket that's right down the street. So we'll have to see how that changes.
Hey, speaking of, now that you mentioned supermarkets, this is a really weird thing as well, Alex. The other day we went to do some filming at a big supermarket in Pudong, where people in the neighborhood were given passes, those invitations to go shopping. So in the process of our filming, we obviously bought some stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't been in a supermarket to buy stuff in like 7 weeks. This is going to be like a shopping spree. And then I was kind of like, I'm not even at home anymore. I can't cook. I don't really need anything. So like I was walking around, it was this really weird feeling that I didn't actually need anything. I don't know if the lockdown made me more simple or something, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that might be the case. I don't know. I found it to be sort of on both sides of that fence, right? So there are a lot of things during the lockdown that these bugs are flying in my window. I don't know what's going on. Sorry. A lot of, yeah, I know. Anyway, a lot of things that I thought that I didn't think about needing, or things that I would just very much easily replace if I ran out of them, I found to be much difficult to acquire during the lockdown. And so I realized on that front, I realized that I actually need more things. But when you can't acquire things, oh my gosh, I'm gonna kill it right now. Got it. When you can't acquire things as easily as you'd like to, sorry about that. When you can't acquire things as easily as you'd like to, you realize that you actually have more needs than you might normally think about. But at the same time, you're right. I found myself living a little bit more simply under those circumstances, in terms of not being as picky as I might otherwise be about the products that I'm buying. However, I think for myself anyway, I think once I'm let out and once I can go outside and traverse the streets freely, I'm really going to sort of snap back, or I'm going to try.
Really quickly.
I'm going to force myself, even if it's not natural, to snap back to normalcy, because it's been a really long time. We've been going through this for a long time. And I'm kind of at the point mentally where I'm just really ready to, I'm not really, if I'm out, I'm out. I'm not really wanting to be out and only go to one or two places or walk down an empty street, or only get certain, I'm, if we're going to get out, then let's get out. Let's not mess about. Let's just do it. That's how I feel.
No, fair enough. Everyone has their own opinions, their own ways of getting back to normal. Hey, what I'm going to do now is quickly play that video because this is one of the things we're going to need to do quite often, actually. But it is good news that the Shanghai government announced from June 1, we no longer need 48-hour COVID tests in order to go anywhere. It's being stretched to 72 days, which is an awesome sign. It means you only need to probably do a test every 2 days. I've been doing them every day outside now, but I've got a video to show how simple it is, because I was actually quite surprised. Again, keep in mind this video is taken while the city's not open yet, so you may need to wait in a line. It'll be a little bit longer, but the simplicity is the same. So let's check it out. It's a really quick video.
No.
Foreigners to do a COVID test on the streets of Shanghai. Let's see. Okay, so it's my first morning out, and I need to do a nucleic acid test every morning. I just did it here. Really, really, really fast. They just scan the code just like inside your compound, do the test, and it's done. So less than 1 minute and I'm off. Let's go. There are already 10,000 test spots in Shanghai. Just scan, swab, and go. See you outside soon. So there you go. Really, really, really simple. Obviously, like I said, there's hardly anyone out. You can see on the streets there that it's still very quiet. But the process itself is just the same as we've been doing inside our compounds when we need to do a nucleic acid test, which is just to use that 30-day code. They give you the vial, do the sample, and go, and it will show up in your apps. So no need to bring passports and stuff, which is pretty awesome, Alex.
Yeah, you can just use the same code that everyone's been using for their PCR tests in their neighborhoods for the last several weeks, and so we can continue to use that. Obviously, it's much simpler to use than it was at the outset of, or rather in March, when when I was making videos about how complicated it was and how to jump through the hoops. Obviously, since then it's been streamlined more than that, and so that's good. And so, yeah, again, I am somewhat concerned about, in terms of the capacity of the people and the capacity of, in terms of the number of people and the capacity of each individual testing site to sort of handle that. But hopefully it'll move smoothly, so we don't have to stand in long lines. And, honestly, frankly, like the standing in line is a social interaction. If someone is positive for COVID and spread whilst waiting in line for a COVID test, that's really not a great situation if our goal is to prevent the spread of COVID. And so hopefully they're quick, efficient, people can maintain social distance and everything like that. We can just it seems as though it's going to be a part of our lives for the near future. Now, I obviously hope, as I'm sure most or all of our viewers do, that it's not a permanent thing, or it's not something that we have to do months and years in the future. But given the situation, it's certain to be a part of our future, at least in the near term. And so hopefully it's efficient, it's quick, and it's not too painful. Metaphor.
Yeah, let's see. Someone just asked, is it a COVID nose and mouth? No, it's just a throat swab, which is awesome. You don't need to do the nose one, which is really good. What is up? I think we have another video, don't we? Oh yeah, we do. We have a video, a new thing from Emma, a new episode of her Mental in Lockdown. And this time she's talking about parenting. I can't imagine how hard that would be during the lockdown. So if you're a parent, this will be for you. Let's check it out and we'll come back and have a chat.
There is nothing about parenting that looks easy. Throw lockdown into the mix, and I don't know how you guys are doing it. So I spoke to Dr. George, who, a dad himself, about parenting in lockdown, and why getting through the day is more than enough. Enjoy. What do you think parents across the city might be experiencing now?
We have to make sure that we can buy enough food, which means we have to monitor these group buys on WeChat, and then we have to cook, clean. We have to keep up with the work responsibilities, and we have to reinforce or encourage our children's participation in online classes. And I think part of this too is that we as parents now, with online learning, observe and see our children's behaviors in the class. Usually we don't see that, right? And we're having our own internal and emotional reactions to that. All of these things at the same time, while still being locked in, right? Still not having the normal coping resources that would be typically available to us.
Have you had any sort of best and worst parenting moments through lockdown?
I've had a lot of worst parenting moments, for sure. I have lost my temper too much, with my children. I've had to apologize a lot. I've had to sit with my children in disappointment, right? As vacation plans have gotten canceled, as, the end of their school term really looks, like it's going to end in a way that is unexpected, right? Online. So all of that is weighs on me.
You're human too, George.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta say, all of these tips were born out of not just my work clinically, but my own experiences as a parent and my own mistakes as a parent, right? But the first step is to try to keep to a daily schedule for you and your family, right? As much as possible. Number 2, utilize your mistakes. It is okay to feel frustrated, angry, afraid, impatient. What we can do is we can own up to our mistakes, even in front of our children, apologize, and offer to take it over. It can also be beneficial in modeling to the child that, hey, this is what human beings do when they realize that they've made a mistake. Number 3 is to have boundaries. Have conversations with your partner, at home about what's realistic, what can be more manageable, right? Have conversations with the children themselves about what's realistic, where everyone's boundaries are, right? Mom and dad may not be able to sit down with you and go through every assignment, and that's just the truth of it. Number 4, be kind to yourself. Be kind to yourself. And as we're kind to ourselves, we can also grow the resources we need to be kind and understanding and empathic to other people.
Was there anything else that you wanted to add?
And I just want to send a message of normalization to all the parents out there. It's okay if sometimes your only goal through the day is to keep your children alive. And we will get to the other goals tomorrow, right?
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, what do you reckon, Alex? For me,
yeah, really good advice. It's another really good episode in Emma's series about mental health during the lockdown. Obviously, she's interviewed a lot of mental health professionals about different topics. Today is parenting, and now I know parenting. I know parenting is something that I'm not a parent, not yet. Anyway, we'll see what happens in the future, and I know you're not either. But it's something that obviously I have a lot of friends and colleagues and other people that I know who are parents, and I know that they're struggling to get through this with their kids, and it's a tough situation, and I really appreciate his outlook on it. I really did. I did chuckle. I was muted, but I did chuckle when he said, sometimes it's just okay to just make sure, today's goal is keep your kids alive, and obviously that's a legal requirement, but not one. But I think it's really a really important point, to sort of manage our expectations of our lives and of ourselves, and then also just sort of use the situation as a teaching point for kids. What to do when what happens, especially if you have younger kids, what happens when mom or dad is stressed out or when mom or dad is frustrated? How does he or she deal with it? And if we've experienced some sort of anger or emotional instability during the situation, how do we deal with that? Because, as we all know, when kids grow up, they're going to have to deal with that in their own lives. And so, if we're going to be role models to our kids, and again, I don't mean to be, I don't mean to speak out of line here. I'm not a parent yet, but I know I think everybody can understand what I mean. It's like if we're meant to be role models for our kids in the good times, and in good situations, I think bad situations are equally, if not even more important in terms of teaching kids how to deal with it.
Oh yeah. For sure. No, I totally agree. No, as you said, I'm not a parent, so I don't know, but I have I know a lot of people who are parents. I have a lot of brothers and sisters who are parents. I think, like you said, getting through these tough situations will probably teach them a lot more in a shorter amount of time, even though it's 2 months, than a lot of other lessons can teach them in their whole lives. And I think it'll be important. And I think this is something people will remember for their whole lives, I reckon. What do you reckon?
Yeah, well, it's not something that I'll forget. That's for sure. I mean, obviously, the COVID pandemic has had an impact on different people's lives all around the world in different ways. I mean, you'd have to be on the moon or in a North Sentinel Island or some uninhabited place in the Amazon to not have felt the effects of it, right? So, something that none of us will ever forget. And I think that for the people of Shanghai and obviously the residents of the city like ourselves, this particular episode isn't something that we'll forget. And moving forward, hopefully as we can emerge from it in the coming days and weeks, that we emerge from it having, obviously it was a negative. I can't imagine it was a positive experience for anybody, but hopefully we can emerge from it, having learned some lessons and at least tried to glean something positive from it as we move forward. And if that's, for parents or for in whatever aspect of life that you can find.
Yeah. And, one of them you touched on before, maybe learning to be more simple with life, less picky. But I'm not sure how long it's going to take for me to revert back. But I think that was the case for me as well. being outside. The city's not open yet, but I have found my requirements are a lot simpler. And of course, people have been through lockdowns like this before, so they'll know, if it's going to change or if people will just revert back to the old once things get back to normal. But yeah, I'll look forward to see good lessons in there for young children. So yeah, thanks for that video, Emma. Andrea Matthews says the other issues is employees with young children. There's no info about when they'll go back to school. So I can't get staff back. They have to stay home with their kids and help with online classes. Yeah, that's an issue. I think all I can recommend is just to keep looking at the news and see what happens. I did hear recently somebody said some schools are reopening, but it's not compulsory and they only need to return if their parents want them to. So I don't know who will go back if it's not compulsory. But yeah, another comment here from Carl who says, the Chinese government must stop spraying everything and everyone with very strong chemicals. It's pure madness. These chemicals will lead to cancer. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, there's the question. And other health problems down the line. We've talked about this before on the show. The Shanghai government has come out and said people need to stop spraying everywhere willy-nilly. I think they said we need to rely on more scientific methods. Don't spray just for the sake of it, because they can be dangerous chemicals, obviously. And Alex, I know you have an opinion on this.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not a scientist, and so I'm not going to get too deep into it. But I think, I think we need to be careful. I mean, obviously, if we look back into history and in every country around the world, there have been chemicals and different practices that were deemed safe at the time or were just deemed necessary at the time that later on caused a lot of issues in terms of whether it be runoff from fertilization products, whether it be pesticides or whatever other chemical it may be. I'm not saying that the situation here is that, but at the same time, we do need to be careful with how we use man-made chemicals to alter sort of our surroundings in the natural environment. You know what I mean? Evolution is slower to catch up to things like that than we are to invent them. And so,
Right.
We need to be careful of what we're doing, not only to our fellow humans, obviously, but to our ecosystem as well. And so, if chemicals need to be used, and obviously in our modern world, we use chemicals for myriad things, but at the same time, we need to make sure that when we do that, we're doing it in a responsible way. And so, we'll see what happens. Hopefully that's the case.
Yeah, I think it is very important. And I'm trying to find the story now on Shanghai Daily on shine.cn, but I can't. Oh, here we go. I found it. The Shanghai government did bring this up recently, the concerns about spraying everything all around like that. And how to properly use disinfectants. So it is being addressed by the government. They do see the same problem you see there, Carl. But thank you for your comment. If you do want to read that story, it is on our Shine website. It says here, just really quickly, other improper ways. There are 6 improper ways of disinfection. That's what the government said. That can... including directly spraying on people, disinfecting outdoor air, which just seems stupid, conducting mass disinfection of greenery, streets, or walls, as well as using disinfectants in indoor areas when people are inside. So, yeah, they have, addressed this, and hopefully the situation will fix up soon. But yeah, I have seen videos a lot online, like Douyin and all that, of people groups of people just spraying everywhere, and some of them are used as promotional videos. Not from Shanghai, thankfully, but some other cities have filmed this kind of video. Not a good look, I think. And I think it just seems like common sense. You said before, Alex, you're not a scientist, but I think it's just common sense that spraying the air is not going to achieve much.
Yeah, well, it's an airborne virus, but that doesn't mean that the air cannot be infected with the virus. It's an airborne virus that passes from person to person in right. Droplets of fluid and then falls to the ground. And then, from what we understand about viruses are something that need to exist inside the body of a living being to persist. Viruses don't just crawl around on the floor or on the walls for hours and survive. That's not the way viruses work. So I think we need to be careful about how we're using chemicals, because as our commenter said, it will inevitably find its way into the groundwater and into other parts of not only the city's sort of infrastructural systems, but also the ecosystem as well. And so hopefully everyone's being responsible now.
You can look at this picture here, somebody spraying a statue, and there's not even anyone outside. It just seems stupid. Anyway, I'll get off that. And there's a comment. This comment that's just coming from De Hua, who says, "I got an announcement from Pudong saying in Zhangjiang saying that June 1st all restrictions will be lifted. I doubt it, but it looks like it's official." Obviously, we don't have a word on that yet. Maybe someone in the office here at Shanghai Daily does, but I haven't received it yet. But that's good news. We'll see what happens. Now, in terms of heading outside, we do have a video to show really quickly of people enjoying their time outside. We'll play that really quickly and then we'll finish up. So talk shortly.
All right.
Nice video. Busy out there. I love seeing people getting haircuts. It's quite interesting that one of the first things people want to do is get their haircut after being locked up for 2 months. Awesome stuff.
Well, as a long hair guy, I'm not a huge fan of haircuts, but at the same time, I know that people, once they start to get a little bit shaggy, they want to make sure to get their haircuts. And so it's good to see. Like I say, it's not totally back to normal. Obviously, sitting here on May the 29th, we've got a long way to go. But again, if you're trying to be optimistic about this, which I think we should, given the fact that it is what it is and we are where we are. And so there's no point in being too down the dumps. I think that most of us have spent a lot of the last couple of months pretty down the dumps, or at least a lot of people have. And I know that because I have a lot of friends and I'm on social media as well. And so I know that. And I think that that we should, even if it's not exactly what we want to see in the long term, that we should be keeping a positive outlook, because we're going to have to move forward with our lives sooner or later. And so it's good to see small victories.
It is really nice to see. Hey, we've got a quick comment here. This is from De Hua, who she sent in the message she got. This is relating to Fan Fang Qu, Shao Qu, which is the areas that have no cases in the last 14 days. They're not going to be issuing any permits to go outside in the next 2 days, and that is in preparation for fully opening on the 1st. And they say here on the 30th and on the 31st they won't be giving out passes out of the compound, and that is so that on the 1st they can freely go out and come in. So that is good news, at least from one small Xiaoqu or one area. Sorry, it's not just the one Xiaochu. It's from the where is it? Jiangjiang in Pudong.
Yes.
Hopefully that's going to be the case for every area in Shanghai. But again, we can't say that for sure at the moment. But it's good news. Thank you for sending that into us. Yeah, good to see. Hey, I think that's all we have time for today. Alex, good to see you. Haven't seen you in about 3 or 4 days. And I guess we'll be up again day after tomorrow, right?
Well, I would be 2 days from tomorrow. So, 大后天.
No. I mean for the stream.
The show, right? I mean, actually getting to where you're at, because my desk is right behind that monitor screen, right behind your back.
The messy one.
So I'd like to be sitting there sooner rather than later. But we'll see how it goes, and we'll catch up.
Yeah, I think for sure we'll catch up in person on the 1st, but otherwise the day after tomorrow we'll be back here at same time, same place with our live stream. Until then, you guys take care. See you soon.
Bye.